Time now for the Nick Hart Show, a special sports production of the Wabash Valley College Radio, TV, and Digital Media Department, presented by 89-1 The Bash and the Gibson Southern Titan Football Boosters, including A&B Logistics, LLC, A&T Concrete Supply, Absolute Custom Machine, LLC, Angermeyer Electric, Brian Stevens Homes, Davis Brothers, Daylight Land Management, Daywig Meats, Dillbeck Properties, Diversified Instruments, DuBois County Garage Doors, Duke Energy, ERA First Advantage, Rodney Langford, First Rate Real Estate, Kent Kleiman, Foster Construction, Fryman Land Service LLC, by Fort Branch Car Wash, Gady Oil, the grandparents of Owen O'Neill, Grassmaster Sod Farms, Hobstadt Family Dentistry LLC, Hobstadt Summerfest, Heritage Petroleum LLC, Hillside Gardens, HMC Gears, Image Inks, in memory of Darwin and Eric Callis, in memory of Zach Bailey, Indiana Farm Bureau Insurance, Nathan Belote, Jackson Seed Service, Jarbo Tax Service, JJ's Concrete Construction LLC, JMCO Technologies, Johnson Commercial Mowing Incorporated, K&K Excavating Incorporated, Casey Fuquay State Farm Agent, Kathy Solomon Photography, Key Construction Incorporated, Kissel Wagner Survey LLC, by Kirkwood Family Dentistry, Little Titans Daycare, Little Miracles Learning Center, Lowry Ag Company LLC, by Marcus Jungan State Farm Insurance, Melcor Custom Cabinets, MyTech Systems, by Murphy's Stump and Grind LLC, National Vet Health, Owensville Auto Body, Parker Excavating, by Perfect Climate Heating, Air, and Plumbing, Cole Concrete Construction, Prodigy Mold and Tool Incorporated, Pro Rehab, Rawhide Golf Supplies LLC, Rooted in Him, Sandy's Pizza and Mini Storage, Shearer Monument Works, by Scotty's Lawn Equipment, by Senior Tequila, Solman Family Farms LLC, South Gibson Titan Lacrosse, Steve Faulkner Chevrolet, by Stodgel Funeral Home, by Tai Chow, The Brass Ring, Titan Construction, TYFL, the Titan Youth Football League, by United Fidelity Bank, Value Built Homes, Bernardo Construction, Vomac Truck Sales and Service Incorporated, by We Simply Clean LLC, and by Young's Auto Body. The Nick Hart Show, a special sports production of the Wabash Valley College Radio, TV, and Digital Media Department and 89.1 The Bash.
And we are back here on 89.1 The Bash with the Nick Hart Show, last regular season game of the season. I'm Austin Harrelson, and alongside me always, Coach Nick Hart. And before we get into rivalry week, Coach, we want to talk about last Friday, 42-19 victory. What stood out to you the most about this team's performance?
I thought there was a lot of really good things. I thought just and people, we won by a lot and performed well. I thought there was a lot of mistakes that probably wouldn't have shown up in the box score. Like, we cut a guy loose in the secondary and maybe the ball didn't go there, or we didn't fit a run right. And we still made the play. Thought, our attention to detail on some of those things on both sides of the ball wasn't where it has been the last couple of weeks. And I thought there was just a lack of kind of energy and excitement on Friday. That being said, I thought there was a lot of really good things, but plenty of stuff that we can improve on, and hopefully this week, we're a little bit cleaner in some of those aspects.
Yeah, so I don't really ask this question a whole lot, but this Boonville team came out there and they were ready to play. Kind of talk about how this Boonville team kind of was able to really, I mean, they stayed in the game for a large portion of this game. Kind of talk about their performance a little bit from your perspective.
Yeah. We kind of talked about it last week. I thought, a team that maybe had kind of been a little bit more up and down than they wanted to be, but when they play well, they have some talented kids and they're well coached. We knew that, going into that game, they weren't just going to roll over and make it easy on us. And they did that. I thought we kind of jumped on them, and that's where I'll give them a lot of credit. Is we kind of jumped on them early, and they didn't go away. They kept playing, that says a lot about the makeup of their team and how they kept competing throughout the game.
And we're going to cut this first segment a little bit short because I really want to jump into, you kind of talked about the mistakes that this team had, and I kind of want to jump into a little bit more in depth offensively and defensively. So we're going to take a quick break here on 89.1 The Bash, and when we come back, we're going to talk about this offense for your Gibson Southern Titans.
This special sports presentation of 89.1 The Bash is made possible by A&B Logistics, LLC, A&T Concrete Supply, Absolute Custom Machine, LLC, Angermeyer Electric, Brian Stevens Homes, Davis Brothers, Daylight Land Management, Daywig Meats, Dillbeck Properties, Diversified Instruments, DuBois County Garage Doors, Duke Energy, ERA First Advantage, Rodney Langford, First Rate Real Estate, Kent Kleiman, Foster Construction, Ryman Land Service, LLC, by Fort Branch Car Wash, Gady Oil, the grandparents of Owen O'Neill, Grassmaster Sod Farms, Hobstadt Family Dentistry, LLC, Hobstadt Summerfest, Heritage Petroleum, LLC, and by Hillside Gardens.
And we are back here on 89.1 The Bash with Coach Nick Hart. Coach, like you said, there were some things that you weren't too happy with. Obviously, at this point in the season, you kind of want everything to shape out well, especially heading into the postseason, which we will dive into a little bit later. But, this team was, still able to win. It was a 42-19 victory. What was the key to that game, specifically on offense? What was this offense able to do to keep it rolling?
Yeah, I thought, especially early, we did a good job of running and throwing the ball. I thought our offensive line, for the most part, played really well. There's one play where, guys were kind of covered and Zach kind of sat in the pocket. It felt like for, 8 or 9 seconds. We had great pass protection, other than the fumble. I thought we had great pass protection all night. Too many penalties. And a lot of times I'm not kind of, the pre-snap penalties is what we really try and focus on. Because, if you get a holding or a pass interference or something, obviously you don't want those, but that's just kids trying to make plays. But I thought too many times, we got in behind the sticks, because of where our technique was, on some of the holds. So, stuff there that we have to clean up, and we were able to overcome most of those, but not positions that you want to put yourself in, moving forward. But I thought offensively, I think with our first group in, we had the fumble and we had one punt. So for the most part, I thought offensively, it was pretty good. Again, always things to clean up, but for the most part, against a defense that I thought, had been pretty good. I thought our guys executed fairly well.
And I wanted to bring up specifically on the offensive side, a lot of injuries, wear and tear, maybe it's just getting guys a little bit of rest. And we've seen a lot of different guys contribute on that side of the ball. How much does that depth help you, especially at this point in the season? You're a week away from the postseason.
Yeah, it helps a lot. And fortunately, I think we're close to getting some of those guys back. But especially at running back, that's been a carousel for us. And I think that kind of speaks to how well our offensive line's playing, that, the production has stayed the same no matter who we're giving the ball to. It definitely helps to have the depth that we do. We're also excited to start kind of getting some of those guys back in the groove and rolling here before the tournament starts.
When you look at this week's matchup, you're going up against Princeton. It's a big week. They're kind of coining this as rivalry week across the conference. So when you look at this week's matchup, where do you see opportunities for your offense to take advantage?
Yeah, I think one thing they do is they present some multiple looks, with the structure of their defense. I think the first thing is us diagnosing, what front or coverage we're getting, and making sure that we're following our rules and attacking that in the appropriate way. Again, going back to last week, kind of cleaning up, some of the mistakes and not getting us in 2nd and 20s and in those type of situations, it's kind of been a focus of ours this week.
All righty. Well, we're going to take a quick break here on 89.1 The Bash. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the stifling defense of the Gibson Southern Titans.
This special sports presentation of 89.1 The Bash is made possible by HMC Gears, Image Inks, in memory of Darwin and Eric Callis, in memory of Zach Bailey, Indiana Farm Bureau Insurance, Nathan Belote, Jackson Seed Service, Jarbo Tax Service, JJ's Concrete Construction LLC, JMCO Technologies, Johnson Commercial Mowing Incorporated, K&K Excavating Incorporated, Casey Fuquay State Farm Agent, Kathy Solomon Photography, P Construction Incorporated, Kissel Wagner Survey LLC, by Kirkwood Family Dentistry, Little Titans Daycare, Little Miracles Learning Center, Lowry Ag Company LLC, by Marcus Union State Farm Insurance, Melcor Custom Cabinets, MyTech Systems, by Murphy Stump and Grind LLC, National Vet Help, Owensville Auto Body, and by Parker Excavating.
And we are back here on 89.1 The Bash as a part of the Nick Hart Show with Coach Nick Hart. Now, Coach, defensively, I want you to kind of break down the performance this past week, and I want you to start with the goods and then talk about what you did not like with this defensive performance this past week.
Yeah, good. I mean, the goal is to keep people out of the end zone, right? And in the first half, we didn't pitch a shutout as a team, but defensively we did. So we made enough plays when we needed to keep them out of the end zone. I did think, going back and watching the film, our pursuit was good. Our effort was good. What I didn't like was just some of the, kind of going back, we hadn't made these mistakes in a few weeks. But just some, we turned some guys loose in the secondary that actually, they didn't hit on us, kind of misfit some runs. Those things didn't show up because, we made the play before they could show up. But things that will definitely hurt us down the road if we don't get corrected.
So you're coming up against a Princeton team that has struggled from time to time this season. How do you keep your defense sharp heading into a week like this? And, even looking into the postseason, how do you keep them as sharp as possible heading into these two matchups?
Yeah, I think the first thing is, they have a few weapons, but, it starts with the Pope kid. He's really electric with the football. And so if we're not fitting things right and doing the right things, we kind of say this about a lot of people, but probably him as much as anybody we've played against, he has the ability to hit a home run every single time that he touches the football. So we got to do a great job of making sure we're fitting everything right in the run game. But as we're talking about the defense, you talked about moving forward. I thought that was kind of my frustration on Friday a little bit is, we kind of talked about after the Heritage Hills game, we have to keep going forward and with this little time left before the tournament, you can't take a step back. And I felt like we took a little bit of a step back from an execution standpoint on Friday. We've got to take a step forward in that this week, really 2 steps forward since we took one back last week and come out and really execute at a high level in all 3 phases of the game and kind of get that momentum and that ball rolling, 1, to take care of business on Friday night, but 2, also to, be playing your best football as you enter the tournament.
This team from week 1, I think on both sides of the football, and you can even talk about the improvement on both sides of the ball. I think from week 1, we've seen a lot of improvement. What improvement has really caught your eye from either side of the football heading into the last week of this season?
I just think collectively, minus some mistakes on Friday, collectively, how clean the execution has been here in the later part of the season. And it's kind of, you should, right? As you go through the season, there should be less and less mental mistakes. But I think we've really kind of cleaned up that part of our game, whether it's in the secondary or it's in run fits, pass protection, run block, whatever the execution can be. I think that we are executing that stuff at a higher level and making less and less mistakes as the season goes on.
And we're going to take a quick break, but when we get back, we're going to talk about more in depth against this Princeton team heading into Friday. And then we're also going to take a little bit of a preview heading into next week against Vincent's League. And then we'll be right back here on 89.1 The Bash.
This special sports presentation of 89.1 The Bash is made possible by Perfect Climate Heating, Air, and Plumbing, Cole Concrete Construction, Prodigy Mold and Tool Incorporated, Pro Rehab, Rawhide Golf Supplies LLC, Rooted in Him, Sandy's Pizza and Mini Storage, Shearer Monument Works, by Scotty's Lawn Equipment, by Senior Tequila, Solomon Family Farms LLC, South Gibson Titan Lacrosse, Steve Faulkner Chevrolet, by Stodgel Funeral Home, by Tai Chow, The Brass Ring, Titan Construction, TYFL, the Titan Youth Football League, by United Fidelity Bank, Value Built Homes, Bernardo Construction, Vomac Truck Sales and Service Incorporated, by We Simply Clean LLC, and by Young's Auto Body.
And we are back here on 89.1 The Bash with the Nick Hart Show. And now this week you're playing against Princeton. This is the last home game of the regular season. I think that, a few years ago, I was in this spot playing my last home game as a senior. Kind of talk about the importance of this game, not just for the players, but for the community.
Yeah, it's big to honor these seniors and the hard work that they've put in over the last 4 years. And I think, the hope is always that they'll have more home games, but obviously, and especially with the way the draw came out, this is the last one that's guaranteed. So you'll want to send those guys off, on a high note and have some great memories of their last regular season game, being played at Gibson Southern.
Yeah, so, you talked about this could be potentially the last home game. Obviously, we don't want that. But for now, this is the last scheduled home game. Next week, going to Vincennes. Kind of give a preview about this Vincennes team to the fans listening.
Yeah, don't know a whole lot. We kind of preach to the kids to be in a week-to-week mentality. But obviously, when you get somebody, and we always kind of keep an eye on the teams in our sectionals. I think the thing that stands out about them, I think you might look at their record at 3-5. But, with the schedule they play in the SIAC, I think what's impressive about them is they've been in every single game. I think that record could be flipped, fairly easily. When you talk about playing in the SIAC and playing at that level, that says a lot about their football team. And, we've had a lot of great battles with them, here in the recent years in the sectional. So we know what kind of program they are and, what they're capable of. And, it's going to take a great effort, here in about 10 days to get enough points and keep enough points off the board to, advance to the next round.
Yeah, I remember from a few years ago, I think the final score of that game was like 69-48. Like it was an absolute shootout from both sides. And so it was definitely a fun game. But when you look at this team heading into the postseason, what gives you the most confidence in their ability to make a run deep into the postseason?
Yeah, I think I'd like to see this level sustain more. But I think when this group plays at a really high level, they're very, very good and very difficult to beat. Now, our job here in the next 10 days is to find a way to make sure that we're at that level all the time. And I think we're getting closer and closer to that. But when we're executing at a high level and playing at a high level, it's a really special group and one that has a chance to do some special things here in the late part of October and early November.
So last question, and we're going to hop back to this Princeton matchup, kind of go into depth. I know you went and talked a little bit about the Princeton offense and defense, but I kind of want you to go more into depth and kind of give fans a little bit of a preview heading into Friday about what they're going to see.
Yeah, I think you're going to see a really improved football team. I think this year they're 3-5, and again, it have been kind of like we talked about. Vincent's they've been in some games, where they've had a chance, to make that record even better. Really explosive offensively. I think a lot of people talk about the Pope kid, but they have some other kids that can make some plays offensively, and they kind of give you a rare look where they'll be in the wishbone, they'll be in the spread, and it's kind of like playing two offenses, within the same week or the same game. So that kind of presents some challenges about how you're preparing and stuff with the different variety that you're seeing offensively.
Well, Coach, I think, it's a little bit of a quicker show, but next week is going to be a super big week. This is a huge game for the seniors. Obviously, it's senior night. This could be potentially the last home game for those guys. Obviously, we don't want that, but that's just how the scheduling works at this moment in time. So, but make sure to tune in to 89 The Bash on Friday or come out to the field to watch your Gibson Southern Titans take on Princeton as a part of the rivalry week. And I guess before we go, I can ask you, kind of talk to you about that as well. Talk about what this game means for rivalry week and this kind of how the scheduling has gone the last week of the season and how, what do you think about the rivalry week? Do you have any opinion on it?
Yeah, I think it's kind of a cool thing, especially because in our state, we choose to release the sectional pairings, going into that week 9, and I think sometimes that can kind of overshadow, the week 9 games because everybody wants to talk about the sectional and people want to start, looking forward to the tournament. So I think by kind of having a rivalry game in here, at least we can kind of fight off that that urge to kind of look ahead to the next week, whether it be fans or players or whatever. I don't, if I was in charge and I'm not, we only get 9 games and I don't really like the fact that, we kind of get this week 9 somewhat overshadowed by the tournament draw. But no, I think that's one of the good parts of having a big game week 9 is, it does make it important and you're not looking ahead to the next week and you're kind of wrapped up in this week and enjoying this week before you move on to the next one.
Well, Coach, I appreciate you coming on as always. Once again, make sure to tune in to the Nick Hart Show next week. It will be playoff week. Everybody's really excited for this upcoming matchup as well as next week as well. So make sure to tune in to 89 The Bash on Friday, or like I said, come out to the field for the last regular season game of the season. But Coach, we're hoping the Titans can come out with the victory, finish with a 1-loss season. It's been a pretty successful season. I don't know what you think about it, but I think according to my standards, it's been a pretty good season.
Yeah, it is. And I think, the one thing I didn't mention is, as we talk about how big this week is and everything, we've clinched a share of the conference. This is a chance to go win the conference outright. I want my kids to share when they're playing with their toys and stuff, but we don't want to share those and keep them for ourselves. So,
right.
Big opportunity for us to, kind of go back out and, get the conference championship back at Gibson Southern and have it all to ourselves.
Well, Coach, it's always a pleasure to get to talk to you. Hopefully, once again, the Titans come out with the victory, and make sure to tune in next week at 7 p.m. here on 89 The Bash, and we'll see you on Friday night.
Thanks for listening to the Nick Hart Show on 89 The Bash. Brought to you by the Gibson Southern Football Boosters, including A&B Logistics, LLC, A&T Concrete Supply, Absolute Custom Machine, LLC, Angermeyer Electric, Brian Stevens Homes, Davis Brothers, Daylight Land Management, Daywig Meats, Dillback Properties, Diversified Instruments, Du Bois County Garage Doors, Duke Energy, ERA First Advantage, Rodney Langford, First Rate Real Estate, Kent Kleiman, Foster Construction, Ryman Land Service LLC, by Fort Branch Car Wash, Gady Oil, the grandparents of Owen O'Neill, Grassmaster Sod Farms, Hobstadt Family Dentistry LLC, Hobstadt Summerfest, Heritage Petroleum LLC, Hillside Gardens, HMC Gears, Image Inks, in memory of Darwin and Eric Callis, in memory of Zach Bailey, Indiana Farm Bureau Insurance, Nathan Belote, Jackson Seed Service, Jarbo Tax Service, JJ's Concrete Construction LLC, JMCO Technologies, Johnson Commercial Mowing Incorporated, K&K Excavating Incorporated, Casey Fuquay State Farm Agent, Kathy Solomon Photography, P Construction Incorporated, Kissel Wagner Survey LLC, by Kirkwood Family Dentistry, Little Titans Daycare, Little Miracles Learning Center, Lowry Ag Company LLC, by Marcus Jungan State Farm Insurance, Melcor Custom Cabinets, MyTech Systems, by Murphy's Stump and Grind LLC, National Vet Help, Owensville Auto Body, Parker Excavating, by Perfect Climate Heating, Air and Plumbing, Pole Concrete Construction, Prodigy Mold and Tool Incorporated, Pro Rehab, Rawhide Golf Supplies LLC, Rooted in Him, Sandy's Pizza and Mini Storage, Shearer Monument Works, by Scotty's Lawn Equipment, by Senior Tequila, Solman Family Farms LLC, South Gibson Titan Lacrosse, Steve Faulkner Chevrolet, by Stodgel Funeral Home, by Tai Chow, The Brass Ring, Titan Construction, TYFL, the Titan Youth Football League, by United Fidelity Bank, Value Built Homes, Bernardo Construction, Vomac Truck Sales and Service Incorporated, by We Simply Clean LLC, and by Young's Auto Body. The Nick Hart Show, a special sports production of the Wabash Valley College Radio, TV, and Digital Media Department, and 89.1 The Bash.